have a high sign. Oh, I think we have.
We're green to go. Yeah.
Yes, okay. Nice. Okay. How you doing? Okay. Okay, it is now 5:31 p.m. I'd like to call the regular Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence Ad Hoc Committee meeting of Wednesday, May 27th, 2026 to order. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Of course, Committee Member DeVries.
Here.
Here again. Committee Member Morris Lopez. Committee Member Sabathia.
Here.
Chair Mortarana.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. So general public comments. This is the time for members of the public to speak on items not listed on the agenda, but that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The committee cannot take action on items not on the agenda, but staff may follow up on matters raised. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes. To ensure fairness and efficiency, the chair may reasonably adjust speaking times based on the number of participants. Please remember that the committee welcomes all viewpoints. Comments may not be interrupted based on their content, but the chair may intervene if a speaker's behavior disrupts the meeting, such as by speaking over others, exceeding time limits, or engaging in personal attacks or profanity. If you're attending in person, please fill out a speaker card and state your name for the record. For those joining via Zoom, please use the raise hand feature or press *9 on your phone keypad. So, are there any members of the public who wish to comment on non-agenda items?
We do not have any public in chambers or on Zoom.
Thank you. Seeing none, we'll close general public comment. Consent, item 3, consent. There are 2 items in the consent agenda. The approval of the affidavit of posting and approving the special meeting minutes of our March 25th, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. With a motion from committee member DeVries and a second from committee member Sabathia, we will take a roll call vote.
Committee Member DeVries.
Yes.
Committee Member Morris Lopez. Committee Member Sabathia.
Yes.
Chair Mortarana.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Yeah. Yet, I hope. Okay, study session, item number 4. The infill development strategy targeted general plan amendment study session. So we are going to handle this slightly differently, and our clerk is walking. Oh, okay, got it. There's a clerk announcement to be made. Victor, can you are you ready for that? You have that?
Yes, through the
Okay.
chair.
Thank you.
First, the sequence of the study session is for the committee to receive the report from staff, and then from there, we'll go on with the clerk announcement.
Oh, you want to do the report first?
Correct.
Okay.
And then we'll do the announcement.
I misunderstood. Okay, good. Then let's go ahead and receive the staff report. Thank you.
Hi, Ariel Goodspeed, Planning Manager. I'd like to introduce Kylie Pope with EMC, who will be providing the presentation this evening.
Hi. Thank you, Ariel. Just go ahead and. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet. Bear with us just a moment.
Okay.
Is that let us? Okay, looks like you're on.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So again, I'm Kylie Pope. I'm a senior planner with EMC Planning Group. I presented to you guys in March, so just a couple months ago. So glad to be here again tonight. So tonight's study session focuses on the infill development strategy and targeted general plan amendment. As you know, the purpose of tonight's discussion is to review the proposed general plan amendment policy direction, discuss the implications associated with the council adopted sphere of influence, and to receive feedback from the committee on key policy topics, including land use capacity, residential densities, and parking modifications. And staff will also be requesting direction on several items necessary to prepare a refined draft general plan amendment for future consideration. I'm not getting a next, sorry.
Oh, bear with us for just a moment. We're having a little, give us just a sec and we'll get you squared away.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, I think that was on my end.
No, it's we're having a little discussion here in the
Oh.
house. But go right ahead, please.
Okay. So I trust the committee has reviewed the packet and is familiar with most of these terms, but feel free to stop me if I say an acronym that sounds unfamiliar or if you just need a reminder. So the proposed project consists of, again, a targeted amendment to the city's 2035 general plan. The amendment's intended to implement planning boundaries adopted by the council back in November of 2023, which include an urban growth boundary, city limits, and a coterminous sphere of influence, as well as a planning area. Now, the amendment focuses on promoting infill development within the city's adopted boundaries while supporting the preservation of surrounding ag and open space lands. So to implement this framework, the amendment includes updates to objectives, policies, implementation programs, maps, and development assumptions within the general plan. Now, importantly, the targeted general plan amendment serves as the planning framework that supports the city's future application to San Benito LAFCO for amendment of the sphere of influence to reflect the council's November 2023 action. So the amendments therefore are intended to align the city's land use planning documents with the council's adopted boundaries. So just a little bit of background before we get into the meat. So August 2020, city formed the Urban Growth Boundary Ad Hoc Committee. The committee evaluated long-term growth options and planning boundaries, as well as development constraints, agricultural preservation considerations, and community input. And ultimately, the committee recommended an urban growth boundary, the coterminous sphere of influence, in an expanded planning area. November 2023, the council adopted those planning boundaries via resolution 2023-71. And following that council direction, the city initiated work with EMC Planning Group to prepare the infill strategy and targeted general plan amendment. In May 2025, the city entered into a memorandum of understanding with San Benito County to establish a joint planning process for development proposals within the planning area. And as a result of staff transitions during 2025, the progress on the general plan amendment process has been slowed. As I said more recently, I was just presenting to you guys in March. Committee held a public hearing to discuss the draft amendment and directed staff to return with more information regarding residential densities, parking modifications, and further discussion on the implications associated with the council adopted sphere of influence. And so those are the primary things that we'll talk about this evening. Okay. So here are those council adopted boundaries. We have the planning area, that's this purple line on the map here. And then we have a red line, which is both the city limits and that council adopted sphere. And then we have the urban growth boundary, which is this green line, which kind of follows the city limits. Again, this overall planning strategy just emphasizes future growth inward through infill development opportunities rather than expanding outward into agricultural lands. Now, I want to further discuss how jurisdictional authority functions under the council adopted planning framework. So parcels that are located within the sphere, so within this purple line, but outside of the red line, so all this ag space, open space resource area, those are under county jurisdiction. However, development proposals received for this area, they're still subject to the memorandum of understanding between the city and the county. Now, parcels that are located within the sphere, this red line, and the city limits are, of course, under city jurisdiction. Now, the properties located outside of the council adopted sphere, so outside of the red line, those cannot be annexed into the city unless LAFCO first approves an amendment to the sphere of influence. So what I mean by that is, although council adopted the sphere in 2023, LAFCO is the regulatory agency that's responsible for establishing, amending any updates to spheres of influences for all jurisdictions. So, assuming the city moves forward, prepares an application for a sphere of influence amendment to LAFCO, LAFCO approves it. At that point, annexation of parcels that are outside of that LAFCO adopted sphere then would have to go through a separate annexation process that LAFCO would then evaluate factors such as orderly growth, infrastructure and service availability, and preservation of ag and open space lands. So put it really simply, the council adopted sphere establishes where the city can anticipate growth in the future. And any areas outside of that boundary generally would not be eligible for annexation unless the city and LAFCO approve expanding the sphere again through a future public process. Okay. And we'll come back to that for any questions. We'll keep it moving. Okay. So now we'll get into the proposed land use, or rather the difference in land use acreage between the existing 2035 general plan sphere, this current general plan sphere or corrected sphere. That's this third column right here. A corrected current acreage calculations presented in the third column because errors were identified in the reported acreage totals for several land use designations within the existing 2035 general plan. We didn't identify those errors until we were putting together maps for this study session. And so the maps really kind of allowed us to identify that existing error within the general plan. So that's why we have that current general plan sphere acres. And that's just so that way we have a more accurate calculation of what the acreage is for land use designations under the general plan currently.
Kylie, can I interrupt you for just a moment?
Yes.
I'm having a little trouble. So the difference in the three columns, the existing 2023 general plan SOI versus the current general plan SOI. What is how I
Yeah.
don't understand what what's
So-
the difference between those two?
Sure. Thanks for stopping me. This would have been an awful presentation if you hadn't. Um, so the existing 2035, this is basically what's reported in your general plan. It's wrong. This column is actually
I'm
based off
sorry,
of
we can't see where you're pointing. So can you
Oh.
tell us what which? Okay, I can't. So I'd like her to
sure,
just give me
sure.
the
So
rundown.
the second column from
Oh,
the
got it.
left,
Thank you.
yes.
you.
So the second column from the left that has a total of 1468.2.
Uh-huh.
That column is the acreage that's reported in the existing general plan right now, but it is incorrect, which we identified through creating some maps. And creating maps, we were able to see the acreages according to each land use in GIS.
Uh-huh.
And so that's how we identified what's being reported in the general plan versus what actually is on the ground is significantly different. So this is what the city should be considering for their evaluation in the change in land use
Got it.
as a result of this, the change of the
So
year.
those two columns do not represent moving the line at all. They
No.
just represent the acreage that was assigned in the table to those different land uses. And in the first column of data, those were found to be erroneous in some cases, or in
Yeah.
most, it looks like most
And
all of
most
them.
of them. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. That
Yeah. So this is
Alright.
here really just for informational purposes. I didn't want you
Thank
to
you.
see just completely different information or, have a similar table up in the general plan, printed beside you and say, well, these numbers do not match what's in our general plan.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you for the clarification. I think, does that make sense to people? Okay, no, okay. You remember. Yeah, no, understood.
Decent job. There was a lot of repetitiveness, and then there was also
Yeah.
a lot of errors we found on the mapping side, and that's all that
Sure.
Kylie's really. So those two things really represent the same thing,
Got
except
it.
there's an error.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, so when you look on the map, there's a line that designates the sphere of influence in the general plan. The people that prepared the plan said that represents X number of acres and of those different land uses. The data that they used to compile that total was wrong. The map, the line is correct, but the map data, the volume of acreage within that boundary was not correct. Essentially.
Yeah, it was just how the map was put together. They used these large polygons and not actual parcel acreage when they developed that map. So it's just younger students and learning curves.
Yeah.
And then one other thing I would share with you is that, and even though this was in the general plan,
Yeah.
and this was a sphere of influence line that you've seen on the map,
Was never approved.
the next step never took place.
Yeah, we
I know
understand
looking
that.
Ahead of Kylie's presentation, but just to be clear about it, that sphere of influence that's in the general plan was never adopted by LAFCO, so it
Correct.
doesn't really exist.
So therefore, what is our current sphere?
The current one looks like this. I have them.
A big rectangle,
It's a
right?
big rectangle
Yeah.
that we don't really necessarily have the acreage here for.
But
but
no.
That big rectangle is just
Yeah.
a line that I think an engineer that used to run the city drew, or somebody else drew
A
along
guy
that.
named Barry did that in the 90s, and I have no idea why we did it. I have no idea how that was created.
So it'd be
Okay.
part of what Ariel's trying to do is clean up the general plan is your tool It is the tool
Right.
that you can use to
Right.
make this application to LAFCO
Right.
to actually get your sphere of influence put
Right.
in place.
Right.
Understood.
And so that's what we're doing in terms of, and again, we're not doing a general plan update here that we would normally do for a city where it might cost you $500,000 or $1 million, depending on what city it is. We're doing a very
Targeted.
targeted general plan update just to get the sphere of influence adopted so that you can take that MOU that you did and all the work you did with the county and all the work that's been going on for the last 6 years to actually synthesize it and make
Right.
it happen.
Right. Stated simply to get a sphere of influence approved because we do not have one other than it reverts back to the old one.
Okay.
So Kylie, I apologize for jumping ahead a little bit, but just thought it was a good time to clarify.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you. Yeah, Kylie, thank you for the clarification.
Sure. And just so you know, this column will
Yes.
show up in, tables throughout this presentation, but it's just in case you wanted to compare it to what's in the general plan. These are the two columns that we'll be discussing in our scenarios later. So,
Right.
okay. Okay, so yeah. So you can see here that the council adopted sphere totals about 420 acres compared to the general plan sphere, which is 640 acres. And so under the council adopted sphere, there'd be a reduction of about 221 acres. And the most substantial reduction occurs for the business park commercial. You can see that it's just eliminated entirely under that council adopted sphere.
And when you say council adopted sphere, Kylie, just to be clear, we're talking about the one that just recently happened in the last couple of years.
In 2023, yeah.
Yeah, 2023. So
And just to be even more clear, that council adopted sphere is the same thing as the council adopted UGB and also the same thing as the city limits. They're all coterminous, correct? So
Well,
when
the
it says-
UGB is not coterminous.
Well, except for
Well, yeah, that northeast area.
It's
Yeah.
mainly coterminous except for underneath the mission, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that
Most-
northeast area.
Mostly. There's an area out in First Street side. Along First. Not coterminous.
On the east side?
Yeah, here. There's this just ag land up here.
Oh, yeah, right. Across
But
from
yeah,
it.
mostly it is pretty
Yeah,
close.
okay. So the
Great.
reduction you're talking about then is the area within all three of those lines, city limits, UGB, and council adopted sphere that's not been approved by LAFCO. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Yeah.
please.
thank
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So then we'll jump into some key revenue generating land uses that, could be affected by the council adopted sphere. So under the council adopted sphere, acreage again designated for business park commercial is eliminated entirely. So that's a loss of about 118 acres. There's also a loss for industrial designated lands at 12.7 acres, and then just a very small loss for mixed use at 0.3 acres. So overall, between the current general plan sphere and the council adopted sphere, there's about a reduction of 130.7 acres of these key revenue generating land uses. And so the reduction in the commercial and industrial. Sarah,
I'm sorry.
question?
I sort of object to the terminology, but I'll reserve that for later. I'm sure it'll be a topic of discussion.
I join in the objection. Key revenue generating.
Well,
Just sounds
let's
like
come
edit-
back to it.
sounds
Let her
like
finish the
editorial
report.
comment. We
Let
can
her
talk
finish
about-
the report.
Well, we can talk about economic generators.
Yeah, please continue. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay. Yeah, so basically this is brought up just to say that fiscal impacts have not been evaluated yet for the potential implications of these land use reductions. And this is one of the items that staff's requesting direction from the committee on, whether or not a fiscal impact analysis should be completed to evaluate this. Okay. So the map before you here illustrates the general plan sphere of influence that's in the 2035 general plan currently. You can see here that the general plan sphere included a significant inventory of business park commercial. That's your striped parcel down here. And then some industrial. I think that was about 13 acres, and this was about 118 acres. And then the next map shows the council adopted sphere and boundaries. And you can see here's those two industrial parcels and then the business park commercial outside of the sphere. So no longer under the city's jurisdiction. And then here, just a side-by-side comparison so you can really wrap your head around it. Again, the council adopted sphere is really emphasizing compact infill development, growing, inward and up rather than growing outside of the city limits and expanding into agricultural lands. Okay, so now we can jump into the proposed residential density adjustments evaluated in the general plan amendment. So it's important to point out that the current zoning code already includes density standards that exceed the general plan densities. Specifically for low density residential, you can see the zoning code exceeds it by about 1 dwelling unit, permitting up to 7. The general plan's only up to 6. And then again, for the high density, the same, just barely exceeding it by 1 dwelling unit. So just something to call, your attention to. And then additionally, I want to note that the city's adopted housing element program 3.13 commits the city to increasing residential densities in the low density residential to be a range of 6 to 12 dwelling units per acre. The medium density residential to have a range of 12 to 16, and then the mixed use designation to have a range of 16 to 24. So I've included here a column to the far right that's called alternative densities. These include those density ranges from the housing element, not identically, but they include the range, so at least they would align with the housing element at the very least. And they also respond to some concerns the committee had at the March meeting, that the mixed use proposed densities were too high, so those have dropped. You can see from what was initially proposed at 24 to 30 to 20 to 28 for tonight's study session. So we'll look at the impacts that change could have. Okay. Again, you can ignore this column. We're looking at these two here. So comparing residential unit capacity under the general plan. So although the council adopted sphere reduces the residential acreage overall, the proposed densities that you saw, those really help to offset some of the lost unit capacity. You can see here that under the current general plan sphere, there's a unit capacity, sorry, that's the acreage. There's a unit capacity of just over 2,400 units. And under the council adopted sphere, there's a potential unit capacity of about almost 2,400 units. So there's a difference of 75 units here, and that's the result of the proposed densities. And we'll see that on the next slide where I go through a couple of scenarios so you can see the difference. Is there a question?
So this is the load based on if the city was empty of anything. It would be the total capacity currently would be 2,463 housing units
Correct.
if the land was bare today.
So not taking into account existing units, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah.
if they just I'm saying it's a theoretical number that is the total number of housing units that the land could bear
That could
under
be achieved.
optimum
Mhm.
conditions. If we filled up every single parcel with the maximum allowable, we could have as many as 2,463 units, correct?
Under existing densities, yes.
And how many housing units do we have?
If I recall correctly, I think it was seven. I think it was seven. I don't want to say a number, to be honest.
Is it more than 1,000? More than 2,000?
I really don't recall. We have it in the general plan amendment.
Okay, that to me, that seems like a fairly critical number because it could be, it's like, oh, wow, we're going to lose 75 units. But if we're only filling 20% of the land today, I'm not sure 75 units is going to make any difference in the grand scheme of things. So I'd be curious to understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, I can pull that number at the end of my presentation. Apologies that I don't have it in front of
Thanks.
me. It's plenty of numbers to keep up with here.
Yeah.
I have a question
Um,
before we jump back into this.
Yeah.
Should we be, if we have questions now, should we be bringing those up? Because as we're operating, like, you're just having a.
Would you
a
prefer that I set them?
I just want to know if you want me to also chime in.
I'm flexible.
Okay.
I suppose, Kylie, it's up to you.
I kind of think it's useful to have the questions as we go, so that way it's relevant to the current,
Okay.
Okay. I think please continue.
Okay. Okay. So to get in a little bit deeper here, so on this side we have 4 residential build-out scenarios to evaluate how different density assumptions affect, the long-term housing capacity under the council adopted sphere. So scenario 1 is going to be the baseline. It represents the existing general plan densities and the current general plan sphere acreage. So that's that 24, almost 2,400 number here. Now, scenario 2 applies existing general plan densities with the council adopted sphere. So this is just showing you with the new sphere of influence line adopted by the council, not changing any densities. This is the number that you'd get. So you can see that's a pretty drastic change in potential housing between the two. Now, scenario 3 is what is in the general plan amendment that you saw in March. It's the proposed general plan densities and the council adopted sphere. And so that's about almost 2,400 units here. So what you just saw on the last slide. Now, scenario 4 includes those alternative densities. So an increased low density maximum, just a slightly decreased by 1 dwelling unit from 25 to 24 maximum for high density, and then a much lower mixed use density. And you can see that this is the highest residential unit capacity here with the alternative densities. And most of that is attributed to that range for the low density that gets up to 12 dwelling units per acre, which the city is already committed to in the housing element.
Kylie, real quick, if you don't mind me jumping in.
Yeah.
The one thing that we did notice, and we were just going to bring it up as a discussion point, is in the scenario 3 that we have brought in March. In order to be consistent with the general plan, for low density, it really should be 6 to 12. So instead of 820, it would be 1640. And so that total count would be 3,208 units. So scenario 3, what we had brought 2 months ago should really be 3,208.
So very close.
So very, very close, but just thought I'd kind of point that out.
And I wanted to pull a point that both of you just mentioned. Our housing element that we send to HCD includes the 6 to 12.
Yes.
So in discussing any of these scenarios, like there is that asterisk of what has been approved by HCD.
No,
It includes a program that says that we will do zoning amendments to
Yep.
be these. And so yes, so
Understood.
yeah, so what we do in our general plan should be consistent. They're okay if you increase the densities, but we can't go lower than that. So
Yeah.
yes, correct.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
that's a great call out. That's a really important point, that we just got the housing element completed and these are the
Set up.
numbers that are in it. So unless we have a really strong, passionate objection, I certainly am comfortable with these.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And so that's really looking at scenario 4, the alternative densities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay. So then moving over into the proposed parking programs and policies. So I believe we had written comment from the committee that expressed some concern on these 2 programs related to parking. And I just wanted to clarify program LU 2133. It's an existing program in the general plan. It was simply modified to include the underline bold language, which really just clarifies how parking requirements would be reduced. The city still retains the discretion to determine, the extent and the manner in which the parking reductions will be implemented. It's not, adding a requirement for how much to reduce, but rather just clarifying, adjusting it by minimum parking requirements. And then program LU 2134, that is a newly proposed program, and it's kind of like the brother to 2133, propping them up. It's intended to, just support the feasibility of mixed use development by, removing constraints such as parking for new development and redevelopment in your mixed use zones. And again, this program is very, it's very vague. It doesn't apply, specifics on, what the zoning regs will be. The city still can determine that at a later date. And then I believe this is my last slide, just pulling us back to the direction that staff's requesting from the committee. So firstly, just direction on whether to conduct fiscal analysis to evaluate the reduction of 130.7 acres of business park, commercial, and industrial land use. Also direction on the preferred residential density option. Sounded like that was probably scenario 4, but we can confirm that. And then also feedback regarding the proposed parking policy modifications and standards. And then any other items that the committee would like to see included in a refined draft general plan amendment. So with that, I will go ahead and exit this and stop sharing.
I would suggest to keep us on track for the rest, if we could put that slide up of direction requested.
Yeah.
That's a
and
good
keep-
idea.
Keep that up until,
Yeah.
as like a talking points.
Right. A
Yeah.
to-do list.
Yep.
There you go.
Otherwise, my mind will wander.
Mine too.
Okay.
Start checking them off.
Chair, just on your question earlier about the number of housing units. Based in the updated, if you can validate this, it's on page 7 in the housing element. San Juan Bautista had 909 housing units in 2023. 63% of the units were single-family homes. So 909. So basically pushing, as you said, it's under 1,000, but it's close.
Okay. That's a huge help.
That's great, Michael. Thank you.
Thanks.
I knew you were here for a reason.
Yeah, so that has us tripling the size in terms of housing units if we were to go to max capacity at the
Yeah.
3K in scenario
Yeah.
4.
Okay, do we have anything further from staff?
Yes, I'd like to make the clerk announcement now.
Oh, thank you.
So during the question portion of the study session, staff and the consultant will respond to the questions from the committee members first. After committee member questions, members of the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. After public comment period closes, the chair will open public comment. Public comment is for receiving public comment from the public and is not intended to for there to be a back and forth discussion. After public comment closes, the committee will proceed with final committee member comments, deliberation, and any recommended motion.
Thank you. I think just normally in a meeting like this, we would take a staff report. The committee would make comments, ask questions. There'd be some interaction with staff. And then we would open it for public comments. The public comments are typically just a single direction. There may be some back to you, the public, with some information, but it's not a lot of back and forth. What we're suggesting is that in this case, we will have more back and forth, make it more of an interactive, still limiting the time. We'll then come back to the committee for further comments, and then there will be an opportunity to make for the public again to make public comment, but that will not be the same interactive that the first round was. It's more giving us feedback for us then to deliberate. Okay, so a little bit different, but I think it'll give us a little more better chance to interact. So hopefully. I think, okay, back to staff. Do you have anything to add, Ariel?
Yeah, so for the public question period, that's the first period that's about to open up. Like Victor mentioned, 3 minutes. After you've asked your questions, if staff have the answers, we'll respond to those individual questions, hopefully addressing as much as we can tonight. Some things we may need to
Research. Right.
Additionally, just, if there's any changes on some of the verbiage, we can talk about that. Separately, if you don't want to do necessarily like a fiscal analysis, if you want staff similar to how we did like with the housing, look at options of where we could accommodate maybe some commercial or industrial that we were losing from the sphere. So kind of a caveat to that first bullet point, just providing us some direction, not just on the housing, but also on our other land use sectors. So that is my comments. Thank you so much.
Sure. Michael, do you have anything to
Yeah,
add?
the only thing I would say, and I think Kylie would be better to speak to this than myself, and that is, and you already said it, which was that HCD adopted your housing element, and there are certain guidelines in that housing element that you have to follow.
Right.
And HCD and the Attorney General have been very clear about going after jurisdictions that don't do their zoning that follows up and don't all of a sudden reduce densities or do.
Yeah.
So there's been a number of lawsuits throughout the state and the push from from Sacramento on this issue. So in your deliberation tonight about looking at this, you just have to take that into consideration as an already adopted council document.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Committee Member Morris Lopez, you have a question?
You've just referenced the mandate that we have to follow
Yes.
from HCD. It would be nice to have a quick screenshot of that.
It's
Is it
actually,
the
I think you missed it. And
I must
if
have
you
missed it,
give-
and I
maybe Vic,
apologize.
could you
Kylie,
direct
do you
us
mind
to-
going back to that slide?
And it's
Yeah.
less of a mandate and more what we already adopted as a city.
Yeah,
We made some
exactly.
promises
Yeah.
and we can't walk them.
Yeah, no. EJ's comment, his point is exactly right. It was not a state mandate. These are what were adopted by the council as part of the housing element
Right, but
that
then,
was submitted to the state.
But the
So,
state-
and it's been adopted.
right.
So
the state-
now it is now what's in force. And so if we go back on that, or if we recommend going back on that, it then opens that whole,
Right, I
that's a
understand.
huge can of worms.
So that should be our benchmark. I mean, not to deviate and go less. That would be where we have to live, correct?
I mean, I think that's part of the deliberation here today.
Yeah, there's
So,
two options. Kylie, do you mind going to the next, I think it's the next slide that provides the options. So scenario 3 or scenario 4 would be consistent with the adopted housing element. So, and one of the questions that had been posed at our March meeting was could we do no changes to the density? And we basically are explaining why we need to do some density increases, and we provided two options, scenario 3.
How is scenario 3 consistent when it's got 800 less units on the low density?
That we would be correcting it to be 6 to 12 units. So if you see bullet point 2 at the top, we wanted to keep in that table what we had presented in March, but it needs to be corrected to be 6 to 12. And it would say 1,640, and then the total yield at the bottom should be 3,208.
Okay, got it.
Yes.
Mhm.
okay. Okay. Is that not clear? Yes,
Oh,
clear?
no, it's clear. I'm just
Okay.
coupled by, the expectation to triple, like committee member Sabathia said, triple our increase.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, okay, anybody want to start with questions, comments at this point?
Can we go back to our to-do list? Because I already,
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't,
Do you want to start?
I have a
I have on
squirrel
the
of a
to-do list.
brain, and if this is what is being asked of us, like,
Sure.
we should be looking at this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Would you like to start then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I am in favor of some kind of analysis that shows the impact of what we were doing, phrasing it, bounding it. But like something that helps us understand the impact of what's being done. Some way to map that.
Sure.
Some type of analysis to map that to dollars so that we really understand
Sure.
the impact.
Yeah, that's smart. Can I go next?
Well, is that all you have for that? Yep. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, please go right ahead.
As those who know me well enough know that I'm all about dollars and revenue for the city, and I would love to have that conversation because I think there's some key things that we could do and are not doing to make money here. But I'm interested, Kylie, in revisiting the parking topic,
Mhm.
and that's on our to-do list. And when you were presenting on this item, I think used the phrase that would still be within the city's discretion to ... So I'd like to hear more about what exactly the city would maintain discretion to do, to increase, to do this, to that, etc. Also, very interested in what perception would be for us now. And I think Michael has a lot of experience doing this on the peninsula with increasing densities, especially mixed use, for example. It's always the number one issue is you're going to do a big mixed use project with so many units, so many residents, where are they going to park? We've run into that here. I have sitting at this thing like La Casa Rosa, for example. We're going to create some rental units there. Where are those people going to park? And that was kind of a hot button issue. There's different ways of solving that, like in lieu fees, etc. But what is our overall parking strategy as articulated in these amendments that comports and matches up with increasing densities, which where parking presumably is going to be more needed? And just a quick footnote, and I personally am guilty of this, when you get parking wrong, it leads to some issues. And I'm thinking now particularly of Mission Garden Apartments in between the Mission Market and Chevron. We clearly did not identify enough parking when we approved that thing way back when, and now those people are parking all over the place on that field across the street, and there's complaints and what are we doing? And so when you get parking wrong, it's pretty obvious. And I'd like to avoid that with future mixed use projects and so forth that are going to be proceeding under these new density requirements.
The
Yeah.
only, Kylie, you can go as well if you won't have anything you want to add, or Michael. A general plan language, as you're familiar with, you want to be broad to accommodate different conditions, where, you know, city council through zoning code, you know, planning commission and city council through zoning code, can implement more specific parking requirements. And then we additionally have a lot of new state law that's coming in about different reduced, you know, parking. And so, you know, so I think some of the language, you know, was trying to keep it a little bit broader and not get so specific in the general plan. Because for a policy or a program, you want it general, and then the code is where we get to the specifics.
It's, so in your view, Ariel, does this general plan language allow for the type of granular analysis or execution that we can accomplish in the code? Is that the idea? Like, we start broad with the general plan and these things, but then when it comes time to the code, that's when we can really focus that in on what we're trying to accomplish parking wise in San Juan.
Yes, and I'll let Michael add.
Well, I just wanted to reinforce what Ariel said, and I think the code is the place to do that and have that discussion, that you want to keep the discussion general. Again, this is another issue that HCD and the state is pushing, and the reason is really simple. It's like, if you reduce the amount of parking that's required, it's a major constraint to development. So what happens is you end up reducing the number of units. They want you to increase the number of units. So they want less parking requirements, because if you're sitting on the planning commission or you're sitting on the city council, you're going to say, well, wait a second, you didn't meet the parking requirement and you're asking us for a variance.
Right.
Well, we don't want to give you a variance. We don't like variances. Well, you know, that might be your response. I'm just making this up, right? But that might be your response. And so then HCD is saying, if you're going to adopt a housing element and you're going to basically go infill strategy, you need to basically add more units and not decrease units. And the major constraint to adding units is parking. It's always parking. Every jurisdiction I work in, it's parking. Parking. Yeah. We have one jurisdiction we're working on right now. We're doing a 54 unit affordable housing project with no parking, 0. Now that's shocking, right?
Yeah.
But we're trying to create public parking in other areas in and around it at the same time as we're doing this project, so that the project is not because if we had to put parking on that site, it probably wouldn't get built as affordable housing, because you'd have to go down and do parking garage underneath, which would be too expensive to make it work for the affordable housing. And that's the only place you could go. If you try to do it on the surface, you'd never get the units. You'd probably end up with 5 units instead of 50 units. So there's this push and pull every time you're doing something like this.
Right.
But I think, go back to Ariel's point, is that this is just the place to be able to put general language in that really reflects the housing element. And then when you go to your code, come up with some creative ways to have flexible decision-making for you on a project by project basis. And so we've done that on some codes that we've done. And we actually did a parking plan for one jurisdiction and identified places where people could park off-site, and the city could actually spend a little bit of money and create those parking places, or you can have in lieu fees, as you suggested, and the developers end up paying for those parking spaces because you're using your in lieu fees to do
Right.
it. So,
There's solutions, but all those solutions and approaches and addressing that topic is best handled under the code. And right now, all we're trying to do, I'm just making sure I'm clear on this. Right now, we're just trying to adopt some really broad language that will allow for that to happen in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm good on that. I'm good on parking. Thanks.
I'd like to comment on that if you guys don't mind jumping around a bit, since we're on the subject. I think what I objected to was, it says reduce parking requirements for mixed-use developments by adjusting minimum parking requirements. It doesn't leave, it's saying adjust it, reduce, it says reduced parking. It doesn't say study it, look at it. It just says reduce the parking.
that's it.
So maybe we could do some parking requirements for mixed use developments may be reduced. Or-
It is, the other question is, I have a little bit, maybe a bit of an advantage since my wife and I own a mixed use parcel in town. I don't have to provide parking on that mixed use parcel because there's enough street parking according to the code currently. We could put 4 units on that property and not have any parking because the code already accommodates that. So unless we want to go the Santa Cruz route and build a 9-story building in the worst traffic area in the city of Santa Cruz with no parking. And I think that's fundamentally, that's one of the challenges we face is that we're not Santa Cruz. We don't have, public transportation to accommodate people not having cars. So I think we look at it maybe a little differently, but yeah, I don't feel that strongly about this, but I just want to point out that the language seems to require it, and maybe I'm overthinking it. But I'll leave that to your judgment, and I don't need you to. I don't feel the need for you guys to look at it. If you feel comfortable with it, it's all good.
One of the things, as Kylie mentioned, is that the first part of that sentence,
Yep.
we didn't change. It was existing. We just added the second part.
Yep.
So we can look at it as a whole for when we bring back the revision.
Okay. Good enough. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think what Ariel's suggesting is that you could create flexibly, you could actually change the language to say, instead of reduce, to when you do the code, to create flexible code language. It could be case by case. You could give examples.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to do that. And then there's places where you could have hard requirements, right?
Right,
Where
right.
you do some reduction.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And
Dan, did you have, I'm sorry.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I'm not okay with any of this because I'm going to be very honest, I'm just not okay with it. We already know those that sit on the dais as wearing another hat. We want to get people back into our downtown area and our city in general. So with the limited space that we have, and I know this is a requirement, housing element, planning for more housing, mixed use, commercial, we have an issue with parking already. And if we have no regulations or they're very general in terms of developing more housing, where are those people going to park? I can just envision them moving closer and closer to downtown. And then our tourists will not have any place to park.
Sure.
They'll be parking in your neighborhood. They already park in my neighborhood.
They park in mine too, but
Yeah,
this is a
so-
fixed equation,
Yeah.
and we are attempting to give nowhere on the equation. You got to give somewhere.
Well, I know that, but I'm stating my opinion.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
just as you did. So we're in between a rock and a hard place. And I'm going to look at the second part of this where it says program LU 2134, parentheses, new, parentheses. And this is about mixed use. So I want a question about mixed use development in terms, is that light industrial, commercial, residential? What are we talking about there?
Mixed use is commercial and residential.
Okay, so then.
It goes beyond that in sort of the downtown
Got it. Okay,
area.
so I'm gonna.
It calls out
Okay.
commercial on the
So
ground
stop you
floor.
there, I get it. Okay, so mixed use commercial, so this is what I'm gonna bring, because this is
Uh-huh.
happening now. We have a lot of, excuse me, old warehouses in town. They happen to be in residential areas, so they're considered mixed use commercial. But what I see is a lot of these places are really light industrial, and they have big trucks and tree trimming, equipment, whatever. They're not just pickup trucks. So this right here, I think needs to be a little bit more specific. What type of vehicles can be allowed?
Okay.
Big trailer, 20-foot trailer with a tractor on it in my residential area or his? There needs to be some more specifics if we're going to have that type of development. And we need to be clear on what is commercial, not light industrial, because that's what I see now.
Jackie, I think I agree with you.
Okay.
I think the point that they were making and that I think Dan came around to is that goes in the code.
Code.
The ordinance is not the general plan.
I just,
That level of specificity doesn't necessarily belong
at
here.
this level.
Yeah. So And that frankly, I have my laundry list of stuff that I'd like to see in the code change, and that's on my laundry list.
It's just, it's.
We're
so
just not there
general.
yet.
Okay.
We're just not.
And
there.
we're only advisory.
Pardon me?
Through,
We're only advisory.
Well,
through,
Just that.
through the chair, thank you, Councilmember Morris Lopez for that comment. We'll take another look at that with that in mind. And we'll try to see what we can do to maybe address some of that with some revised language.
And then one other thing I would suggest is
Uh-huh.
that you might consider before you do the code piece,
yeah.
coming up with a parking strategy. What is the strategy?
What a
Yeah,
concept.
what a concept, right? So, because you do want to accommodate your visitors, you do want to accommodate your residents.
Yeah.
And it becomes difficult when
Yeah.
somebody pulls in with a big RV or a big,
Yeah.
hauler and has a tractor on it. It takes up 5 spaces or whatever. So, I mean, I get all of that, and we see it all the time. It's the biggest
Yeah.
issue. So the details are in the devil's in the details in the code.
Right.
But you can have this language direct
Yeah.
parking strategy, flexibility, all of those things that you're talking about
Well,
at the
and-
general plan level.
And this is in large part is direction for staff, creating the vision for the staff to then go and develop that the code update. So yeah, thank you. Okay. I think that's good. Dan, did you have anything else you wanted to discuss? No.
Well, can we go back to EJ's to-do list and mine?
Sure.
I'll claim some ownership of it too. All right.
It's all of our.
All of ours? Yeah, that's right. But we were the ones that pointed out, identified.
We talked about.
The fiscal analysis of that. I mean, why don't we just take that one up
Okay.
since it needs to be addressed? And I can start. That is the area in question is over by Pacific Harvest Fish Distributors by the old Salinas Grade Road and what they call now the Danza Trail. Am I right?
That is correct.
Okay. And the question is the question presented is what fiscal impact would that be to the city of San Juan Bautista if that property remains outside city limits, sphere, and UGB, in which case it would be county? Or I guess the question really is, should we bend these lines out around to include it? And to answer that question, what's the idea or the suggestion here is to do a fiscal analysis to see what that looks like monetarily. Do I have that right? Okay. So, and in particular, there was mention of a red hashed marked area that looked like it was more than the fish place. It looked like it went all the way to the mouth of the canyon, like the old cement plant site.
Yeah,
Cement
that,
side.
yeah, that's the existing, it's called commercial / business park.
And that's what's curious to me because I know Mike Lithgow, when he did Pacific Harvest Fish Place, he bought that whole thing. And then he and his partner from Redwood City did plan on doing a little business parky thing there. They had it for sale forever. It's probably still for sale with no liquors. But that was just what has been designated as purple on this map on our screen and maybe adjacent to it. But this whole red hashed area is gigantic and does take in the cement plant site and then some more because it starts going up San Juan Canyon Road. So I guess that's one question I have is, it's one thing to just easily say, oh, business commercial. Okay. But is there a serious suggestion that business commercial would locate in that part going into the canyon? If you look at the topo lines alone, there's very little of that land that's flat. And I just don't understand the concept of doing a business / commercial type uses there. And the next thing I would point out is that as a city, we don't make any money other than property tax, which I would argue is just a wash for what you have to provide in services, but we don't make any money on business/commercial parks because they don't charge sales, gas, or hotel tax. They don't charge any taxes. So therefore, the city doesn't get anything back. If one of those businesses or concepts did generate tax revenue for the city, now I'm interested. But just people sitting in offices on laptops, that is not a revenue producing activity that I'm at all interested in or even care about really. And then a footnote to that would be if you look throughout the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area and LA, office space is plummeting right now as more people are working remotely and from home and so forth. San Jose is just filled with empty offices everywhere. So I don't know that the demand for office business parks, I think it's probably never been lower in California. So I don't see there to be a high demand on that. Thirdly, if we don't include that property, that ground, it would remain county. Any county approval of a business type commercial project in that area would be subject to the city's MOU, which is currently in place with the county, and would allow us to participate in that decision-making process as outlined in the MOU. And if, however, there was an interest by this city at that time with any specific proposal, and this is true as regards anything, I think it bears keeping in mind, any proposal for development outside of our city limits, UGB, and sphere, all coterminous, an application still could be made to the city to consider it, even though it's outside, as long as that application included a general plan amendment, a zone amendment, an annexation, and an annexation to the city, and therefore a LAFCO agreement to that once our new sphere gets approved. And that has happened over and over and over again. And you don't have to look any further than the city of Hollister. As Ariel can tell you, how many annexations has the city of Hollister processed in the last 10 years with this exact same scenario. So just because it's outside of the city doesn't mean it's outside of the city until Jesus comes again. It means it's outside the city right now. But if we want to let a great project in, we can still let a great project in with the mechanism that I just described. So I think there's that to keep in mind. So as to a fiscal analysis for that area, I don't need one. I know the city's tight on budget right now and resources are limited. I don't see that as being a good use of city funds right now to study something that we already know. None of those businesses would make money for the city anyway. So I'm not compelled for the reasons I've said. Thanks.
Question about that land. Is there some issue with it having to be, since it was a cement plant before, there's some contamination or there's something that's going on with the soil?
Yeah, so part of the analysis is, and you know, to both the points is, okay, of that acreage, how much is actually developable between hillsides, between, you know, and what would need to be done? Is there environmental analysis, you know, hazard, you know, cleanup that would need to be done? You know, all of that would be, you know, kind of couched in, and separately, this is just like, again, like the discussion of like policy decisions is similar to the housing where we looked at, okay, how do we accommodate housing with this sphere change? You know, kind of this question we're trying to pose is, okay, how do we accommodate commercial? Maybe it's not the right thing for a business park necessarily anymore, but it's kind of like a dash line. It's like business park / commercial. So it had, you know, multiple uses. So, you know, should we, you know, there hasn't, unless Michael can add to it, an assessment of, do we have enough commercial designated land within our new sphere and city limits? Do we need to look at adding X amount more acreage, or should we look at, maybe some additional, more specific types of, commercial uses? The industrial was less, like I said, it's only 12.7 acres. But these are kind of the policy questions we're trying to like get some direction on so we know
Sure.
how to move forward. But when you're considering all of the land uses, so far we've really just been focused on that housing lands. And so we just want to make sure we've done full circle on everything that's changing.
Okay. I have a few things to say on that subject. So we've spent a couple of years looking at this stuff. So I'm comfortable with the review that we've done, but to your point, we want to create make sure we have a defensible position in this work product. And so it makes sense to me to do a fiscal analysis just so somebody can't come back at us later and say, you didn't do your due diligence and check this off your list. I think that is one reason we should do it, and we probably need to do it. However, I'm very concerned about the methodology. I watched the proposed development up off of the Highway 101 at Bedabel, and took a tour with the representative of that property, which is a massive proposed development, commercial development that has gone absolutely nowhere. The reality is the only thing anybody would ever build out there is data centers. The only thing anybody's going to build out here is some sort of empty, like a data center where there's absolutely no contribution to the community after it's built. We certainly don't have the municipal services in terms of water to supply a data center in the current environment. And so that is a big concern to me. Where you get the developer comes in and says, well, we're going to create 5,000 jobs. Well, perhaps over the construction period, you're going to have a few hundred people at a time working on this place over the next 10 years, creating 5,000 jobs, but you're not creating 5,000 jobs for the community. You're creating a bunch of construction jobs that are transient and short term. I'm very concerned about a fiscal analysis that is realistic, because nobody has ever expressed any interest in doing anything out there, as far as I can tell. And the whole idea of calling it a business park was the brainchild of Roger Grimsley. He thought this was a genius idea, and so he created that designation and flagged it that way. It's purely a construct of Roger Grimsley's opinion. Along with, we were talking about at the meeting last week, or was it last week, about the gateways to the city. He designed and drew 4 gateways to the city, one of which has been implemented out on First Street. But there's, it was just sort of his flight to fancy, in my opinion. So I'm very concerned that it's like, if this got fully built out, the potential is massive. But if we say, let's put a reasonableness factor on it and say, how likely is it that somebody's actually going to come down here and build out a big business park? And so I think it's just spinning our wheels. I think you have to do something, but I'm very concerned that it not be this fantasy number that brings in millions of dollars just to get everybody excited. I will also point out that it is not contiguous to the city limits and would further require a tremendous amount of annexation of land that is not designated for that's ag land and or potentially residential, which would be counter to our other goals. So it's
That's true.
that's a tough one. I think it's a really tough one, but I am in favor of doing doing a fiscal analysis. And I think as a part of that, I think you need to include that review of the land use percentages within the proposed area, within the new well, it should be okay because it's in the city limits, but I'm not sure. So do we in fact have enough designated industrial, commercial, et cetera? Because I know there are requirements for that or standards for that within the state code or for the requirements for the general plan. So I think that probably is worth including in this process. Maybe not. And if you've got a differing opinion, I'd love to hear it.
But I'm happy to respond to that. I just wanted to make sure that EJ's not, you don't want to add into it before I respond, so.
They don't want to hear what I have to say.
We absolutely do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, you know, what I was going to come back at you with before you even started talking about it was that I'm not sure you can get a reality check with a fiscal analysis. You're going to spend $25,000 minimum on a fiscal analysis from an economic firm. They're going to turn to Ariel or to someone like us and say, do you have a budget to be able to give us a projection of what the land uses are? Because what you said earlier was how much of the area is really buildable. So you got to go out and do an analysis of the constraints. You got to figure out what your buildable area is. You got to go through all of that. And then on top of that, you're talking about what happens with the area between the city limits and there to get there. And you've got a bunch of area that's in floodplain and a bunch of other constraints in that area. So then the question becomes, and you had a property owner who wanted to really it to be an open space the last time I heard. So, and I could be out of date on that, but my point is that this property was even looked at as being a visitor serving location. Like you could build a, a small kind of retreat type, hotel type property out there. And then the city could annex it and have that revenue, right? Because you'd like the TOT. But the reality is that unless you come up with a land use scenario that's realistic, you can't do a good fiscal analysis. So you can't really get the answer to your question. I mean, you can throw a dart at the wall and you'll get a number. But do you really want to spend 25,000 plus maybe another 15 or 20,000 on a land use consultant like myself to come up with the scenario to give to the fiscal consultant to actually run the numbers, right? So I would prefer, just opinion, and again, I'm out of my lane now because I shouldn't be giving you the opinion, but my opinion is you're better off spending money on your parking strategy. You're better off spending money on how you're going to increase and encourage the businesses inside your city limits. And why do I say that? Because you've already made a decision at a council level to put these boundaries on. It's done. So why do you need to go back and justify it at this point? It's done. You did an MOU. You went through that whole process to protect the areas outside of your city limits. So with that decision already in place, you don't need to go justify it again. What you do need to do is look at how can we make it, now that we've squeezed the boundaries, how can we make this work? And I think the comment that Dan made earlier about the fact that, you can do a sphere of influence amendment and a general plan amendment and an annexation at some point in the future. If some developer comes along and says, hey, I'm going to build you a beautiful Tanque Verde guest ranch or some kind of, beautiful ranch on that property and you want to include it in the city, that's something that can be looked at down the road. But so my opinion is I really don't want to see you waste money on something that I think is a done decision. And I don't think if you did it, you would get a number that you could hang your hat on. It would be a shot in the dark.
The only thing I would add is that we do need to do just similar like how we did with housing, a little bit more analysis, at least on like our commercial options or our plan, right? What is like your plan? So similar to the housing, okay, we have the status quo of, okay, here's the existing commercial and what's there. But do we need to have some different options? Like, do we need to add 10 more acres? Do we need to have, some priority? Okay, certain visitors serving or certain, we haven't done something of that nature. And so
So what I'm going to help you with this just in the sense of what you're saying, and it's really brilliant. What she's saying is turn it to the inside. You've already decided to turn in.
Right.
So turn it in and look at how you can create more commercial viability in the community.
Yep.
And I
Within.
think that's what you're saying is you don't have anything that helps you with that strategy within.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
in favor of that.
How do you look at your community, if you're gonna go spend $25,000 in economic control, don't have them look out there, have them look in and say, what can we do internally in the city? Just like you looked at the housing and said, well, we need to increase densities to turn it in. And we need to figure out how we're gonna handle parking. You also need to figure out how you're gonna generate revenue. Right. And so that's a whole study within itself, but it's a more productive study because you're dealing with areas you know are in your boundaries.
Right.
Is
And-
that-
Yeah, and as part of it, we could add a little bit of, roughly of that 104, 118 acres, when you took out the floodplains, you took out the hillsides, when you took out, really you were left with 20 acres. We didn't look at that. So, but 20 acres would be more productive here in the city at this location, doing these types of just some sort of an additional analysis to make sure that we were looking at our future fiscal responsibility. Sales tax, TOT, that we're looking at the growth. I mean, right now we have until 2035, so you got 9 more years. So, basically at least the next 9-year horizon.
Hey, Kylie, could you back that up one slide? Or Victor, could you back that up one slide on the screen, please?
And I think what Errol
No,
is also.
Back to that one. Thank you.
I think what Eric's also saying is even if you're doing that internal study, looking at the inside the boundaries, you can always say to the consultant, hey, if we had 20 acres outside the city and we designate that 20 acres visitor serving and it could generate a dude ranch or something like that, what would that generate? And you could get a sense of that. And then at some point in the future, if you want to encourage development of that sort near your community, then you could go after that by putting it on your website and saying and working with the property owner and doing all of that and create economic development in that sense. But right now, the focus has got to be how do we create economic development internal?
Right. I agree
Yeah,
with that.
I agree.
Well said. Do you agree with that, Ariel?
I just want to make sure that what we bring forward is the best fiscal responsible, like policy decision, for the residents here. And then we've looked at it. I just want to make sure that we've analyzed it and we looked at it and we've provided you some options, and we didn't do that. And it would be wrong of staff to not point that out.
But are you talking,
Okay,
I think the big split here is within, as Michael said, or without? Does your vision include looking outside the lines or is it limited to looking inside?
In my time here at the city, the focus that we've heard is downtown. That's priority number one. Downtown is all mixed use, which does include some commercial. And then there's other commercial areas. I'm not the policy. That is my job to be the policy decision. My job is just to make sure that you have a strategy, right? You have a commercial, an industrial, a fiscal strategy. And so I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, I think that my comment last night during the meeting was that we need vision.
Yes.
And that does not, in my opinion, come necessarily from this committee. That needs to come. We need a vision for the community.
Okay.
And this is a fairly narrow what we're doing. I mean, it is a piece of that, but it is not what you guys are describing is a strategy for the community to bolster the business community, which I'm 100% in favor of. However, I don't think that strategy comes from this body.
the city of Salinas, the city of Sand City, I can name a couple others that have done vibrancy plans.
Yeah.
They're called vibrancy plans. And what you do is you look at the downtown and you try to create a strategy.
Yeah.
Just like you're creating the parking strategy we talked about.
Yeah.
You're creating a strategy about how to create vibrancy in your downtown, to
Yeah.
take it up a level, to create more income, to create more jobs, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Good. Okay.
And that as we, sorry,
No, go
as
ahead,
we, move forward this general plan amendment, we can with confidence say we have enough commercial designated land, we have enough industrial designated land, for the tenure of the general plan amendment. And so that's what we want to be able to get to.
Okay. Jackie, do you have anything you want to?
I understand what you're saying because we're really boxed in, but this is the lines that we all agreed on. It's been passed, it's there. So let me just throw this out there, Miss Ariel. Looking at that map with a large rectangular shape around the dotted lines, where within that area of the yellow line are you looking at potentially for commercial industrial? Because when I look at it, it goes, what bleeds into our ag land, because I'm thinking in my head, trying to envision where would be proposed commercial industrial. We talked about the old cement plant. So then I go away from that. And then there is the area that is off of Mission Vineyard across from Copperleaf, which is right now a little ag area. And then if we go east and north, we're like right into ag land. So where would you propose this at? Because I'm seeing very limited area, acres for that. I just want to see where you're thinking.
So I don't have any preconceived, ideas.
May I?
Yeah, or if you would like.
So I think specifically they're asking about the difference between what's out there today as an SOI and what we have adopted, and the exclusion of that red and white striped area that is flagged as this business park commercial, and it looks like 2 industrial parcels that are outside the city limits. That's what she's talking, that's what this review would encompass, was basically those 3 areas. No, it's not. It's not looking at, adding a bunch of other commercial space.
Go find space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just,
Analyze these spaces.
yeah. What is the fiscal impact of excluding these commercial spaces? Yeah.
On this SOI, remember?
Yeah.
So, considering that, are we still kind of potentially, is she still potentially maybe?
No, she's saying that what the suggestion is, that right there, you're looking at it. Those basically, I mean, it's maybe more than 3 parcels, but it is essentially 3 parcels.
Yeah.
Right. That's it.
So,
This is the existing sphere of influence. You probably can't see it on this map, that big square box. That's probably what you're looking at.
Huh?
And the proposed sphere of influence that you've already adopted, and we're talking about Caneville Lapco, is basically the city boundaries.
Right.
So it doesn't impact the agricultural lands except for just below the Mission and that area. And it doesn't impact those because those can be designated as agricultural land in your general.
They are, yeah. Okay. Okay.
Thinking about whether they're expanding where it was before.
yeah. So similar to the housing, right? We looked at the housing and we've, if you changed it to just to the new sphere, okay, what are our future housing needs in the 6th cycle and potentially a 7th cycle, which would be part of because our general plan goes till 2035 and our housing element will only go through 2031. So it will still be within the 7th cycle housing element. So accommodating housing needs for 6th cycle and 7th cycle. So similarly,
Yeah.
making sure we've accommodated
Yeah.
for other designations through the next 9 years. Commercial, industrial, and then, I mean, our general plan had this business park / commercial, but really the commercial, the industrial, and the mixed use. Again, the mixed use, it was a 0.3. There wasn't, it was a nominal change. And so that's why we've been just focusing on that 12.7 acres of industrial.
Is it our intent to get through that entire to-do list tonight? I refuse to sign up for that at the current pace.
I think, well, we've talked about the parking. We've talked about the density option, I think. We're talking about the fiscal analysis. Nobody's brought up any additional policy revisions.
Maybe just
So-
through the,
Pretty close.
yeah, maybe just through the chair, maybe to help us get back on track. We can open up our public question period
Sure.
and
Bring it
then, yeah, and then
Good.
it'll bring it back. We'll do the, any comment period and then, so maybe we can start that.
Perfect. Where's my agenda? Here we go. Okay, so we are going to open public question, the public question period. If
In
if anybody
chambers,
has
Yep.
questions, please bring.
we have Jim Dazzle. You may now approach the podium. You have 3 minutes.
Is the green light on?
There we go. Better?
Thank you.
Sorry. I'm not a resident of San Juan Bautista, but I am a resident of the county. Over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, I think I've attended most of your meetings. That said, my questions I really have 2 questions, and it relates to the older map. I don't have the updated version. I'll get one from Ariel later. But they're indicated way back when an individual owned a piece of property in the county and he had a project in mind. He applied to the county, went through county procedure, and based on the old criteria that we had, there was a fee that was to be assessed by the city of San Juan. And that fee was to be paid after the county did their due diligence. And in light of yet last night's meeting with respect to fees and the consideration of raising those fees, I wondered what this group had in mind as to what that fee would be. Number one. Number two is if you were still following the older maps, and there may be a time when those older maps become reality and the city expands out into county areas. Did this group intend to have a separate set of requirements on a regulatory basis on an application that could be in conflict with county code, even though the property was in the county? So those were my 2 questions that I was going to bring up, and Ariel, I'll swing by and get the updated map from you when you have time. Other than that, I have no further questions. I'll stay here if you have questions of me.
Next in chambers,
Yes, so I can take the first stab at answering those couple of questions. So Kylie did a good job in the beginning of the presentation. I know that was a little while ago, but we'll just, if you're in that planning area now, you'll submit an application to the county. So all the fees assessed with that application would be the county fees. But as part of that process, the county has to include their time to bring a presentation to the planning commission here with the city of San Juan Bautista and provide that presentation. So it's on the county's staff time to do. So, and then they would incorporate, we would put together, there would be a recommendation and a letter provided. Now, comment letters, this is a standard, it was being done previously when it was in the sphere. So instead of just being within the sphere, it's in that planning area. So those comment letters would go back. It's given, it'd be given great weight as part of that project. So those comments would be incorporated as part of that project process that would go to the county's planning commission. So the fees are really the county fees for that particular scenario. Now,
How does San Juan recoup costs for staff time to provide those?
we would need to have a fee for that. Right now we have I can double check. I think we have like a staff time fee, but we would need a fee.
Project review fee.
Well, I mean, it's an informal review, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about an informal review. So potentially it would be an informal review by the planning commission.
So it would be at a regular planning commission meeting. So that's a normal meeting. We're not preparing the presentation. It's on the onerous of the county because it's a county application.
Yeah.
So it's on their requirement to do. What would be is just the comment letter that would go after that planning commission.
DJ's point is that if it does burn up, let's say 4 or 5 hours of your time, can we back charge this proposed developer for that? Through the county?
I
don't think that's anticipated in the MOU, is it?
It's not part of the MOU. It would have to, I can look at it. Let me go look at it. But it would maybe need to be, so how I'm thinking of it is, when let's say fire reviews one of our projects, they have a review fee. So, or environmental health. So it'd be something similar to that is what I'm thinking. So let me go work on that separately.
Needs to be somebody's ordinance.
Yeah, I think the answer is we're not sure, but it's a good question and we need to investigate it because no, it's a great.
Sorry, we have to be careful
Yeah,
about the
correct.
back and forth, but you're going to have 5 more minutes of comment. So, but let me address the second question and then you'll have 5 more minutes. I just want to make sure we
Go for it.
we don't do the back and forth. And then the second part was, the county property conflict. So that is where, in our policy area of the general plan amendment, we maybe include something, especially because most of these parcels are ag parcels, that so you want something because right now the county is updating their agricultural element. They haven't produced the public draft. I checked on it recently. My understanding is it's still under staff review, and so they haven't released it. So we don't have updated, but we can update our policy programs just to make sure that they are something that's a disclaimer it stays consistent with county general plan agricultural policies.
I'd like to comment on this.
Yes, please.
I think the question goes beyond that necessarily, but like we have, I'm trying to think of an example. Like we require a planter strip. The county doesn't require a planter strip whose standard is going to be applied. And I think That's, to be quite frank, as sitting here, is the sort of level of granularity that we know is going to have to be addressed, but has not been. And I believe the MOU anticipates that in its language about follow-on legislation.
Yeah, so, and you can, respond as well, Michael, but, that is correct. So the county's, general plan policies, it's their jurisdiction. So that's what's going to basically take the precedent.
Right.
So that's exactly what I was gonna say. So if the property is in the jurisdiction of the county of San Benito, then their standards will weigh in. Their standards will apply.
Yeah.
If city standards, you can, as a planning commission, you can raise whatever issues you want. We don't like the landscape plan, we don't like the building look, we can, whatever, but your standards don't apply because it's not in your jurisdiction. But the MOU gives you that input. It's like having a very intense comment letter, as Ariel said, that's going to go to the other departments in the county,
Right.
and they're going to see what the city's thinking in terms of that. The other piece with the fee, I think it's a really good idea. The question would be, if San Juan Bautista put it in their ordinance that they wanted to capture costs, i.e., we want a reimbursement agreement with the applicant's not in your jurisdiction.
Right.
So I think it's going to be very difficult. And I think your legal counsel will tell you that you're not going to be able to put that in your ordinance. You're probably going to have to put it in the county's ordinance.
Right.
So the county would have to have an adjunct, as Ariel was heading in that direction. Basically, the environmental health department has a fee for review. The fire department has a fee for review. The city of San Juan Bautista has a fee for review.
Right.
And maybe it's $500 or whatever the number, I'm just making it up, right? But when the applicant comes in, they already know what that number is.
And the county
Right.
plots it for us.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
We bill,
Thank you.
we bill through the county.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Do we have any other public comment?
Yes. Next in chambers, we have Ken Audubon. You may now approach the podium. You have 3 minutes.
The acoustics in here aren't the greatest, but I feel like I learned quite a bit tonight. Thank you. I sent a letter to your last meeting about our property south of San Juan and the other across the street from Copperleaf Development. What I'd like to talk about right now is not so much our property, but the property inside the city limits, inside your sphere. I heard some concerns about parking tonight, but I didn't hear much about the psyche of the San Juan people tonight and what effect this is going to have, this up rather than out, is going to have on the vibe, the way the people in San Juan feel about what they love. And this is the small town feeling, city of history. In 2014, I bought an oversized lot on 37 Monterey Street. Had a cinder block house on it that was falling down. The local crackhead and his girlfriend were squatting in it. The city council was very happy to allow 2 sub-square footage lots on that oversized lot to take care of that eyesore. The only obstacle I ran into building those houses was the local residents not wanting me to put up 2 stories. I can't imagine if that lot was still there and it was built, what it would look like in the neighborhood with a 3-story fourplex there. I don't think that going up and out is going to help the merchants, the tourism, the fill of San Juan. As a wide-eyed busboy at Katamatoris 60 years ago, San Juan was a very, very vibrant city. I've watched it go on a slow burn down to what it is right now. I don't think,
Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Audubon. Your time is up. You have 3 minutes.
I'm going to allow it. As the
Don't-
chair, I'm allowed to do that.
Oh, okay. I just was gonna remind that we do
Linda,
have 5
please,
more.
If you can wrap it up.
I don't think that, regardless of our property, which I think satisfies all your concerns that you've been talking about, I don't think that going up instead of out is the right decision for San Juan.
Thank you.
And as far as our property goes, I'm hoping that you will leave our property in the sphere of influence, so it's there when the city needs it.
Thank
It
you.
goes all the way back to 1907 map with lots on Mission Vineyard that have houses on them. And one house on our property that was drawn from that map.
Okay.
So San Juan had their eye on that property more than a century ago.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes public comment in chambers and on Zoom.
Okay, back to committee comments. Go around again. Anything to add? Any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I mean,
Or do you want to, I'm sorry, we didn't, is there any questions that need to be addressed in his,
At the, at the moment, it was more his comments, thoughts. I didn't hear a specific question in
right?
that, but,
And we did receive your comments the last go round, the letter you wrote, and I read it into the record.
Thank you.
Sure, sure.
but we'll have one more.
Yeah,
But-
absolutely. Okay. Back to the committee. EJ, do you have anything to add?
So I do agree with your comment about, out versus up. Going out versus up being more in line with the San Juan Bautista community feel. That I agree with your analysis there. That is my personal feeling. I guess the fact of the matter is that the San Juan City Council, not unanimously, but as a whole, as a body, agreed to these borders, which we have, and in order to, and this infill plan, and that infill plan involves increasing density, and increasing that density. If you have a limited square footage area, if you are going to increase density, the only option you have is to go up after you've completed your base level infill. I mean, our data shows that in terms of what we have. That's my only comment.
Can I say?
No, sorry, you've got to wait till we open it back up. Thank you. I think that I think there's a little more nuance to it than out versus up. And we still have a restriction on height. That's nowhere has there been a discussion about changing the height restriction on construction. And I think it is we still have the setback requirements and so forth. And that stuff is probably going to need to be reviewed. And it's certainly on the list that I have as a planning commissioner to review. Stuff that we need to be looking at that would better adapt to the higher density. But anyway, I think we get it is there is a pitfall to look at this in a very simplistic fashion. Not by you. I understand you and I have had lengthy discussions about this, but I think that sometimes it can be, it's easy to fall into without a more nuanced understanding of the bigger picture. It's easy to fall into that into that. But anyway, I don't think I have any other comments regarding the targeted revision, other than I think that I think Michael's comments are well taken about the cost versus the benefit. I do think there is value in reviewing the percentage of the amount of different land uses that we are currently designated versus what there may be as state minimums. And I think that is worth reviewing, and that's fairly straightforward. But I am not in favor of the fiscal review that was discussed, because it, to his point, I think it just doesn't, I think our money would be better spent focusing inward. So. Dan?
Same.
Jackie, you have anything to add? The densities? Oh, it felt like we had a consensus, but I'm not sure we had your comment. Yeah, I apologize. No, it's okay. I was making an assumption I should not have made, but I think that my sense of it is that my concern was that if they addressed, so we had brought to them in our last meeting that we had concerns about the height, the density numbers being too high in some instances, and we suggested that they be reduced somewhat. They have now recommended that they be brought in line with what's in the housing element, which does that with the exception of the low density. It adjusts that, but I don't think that was the density that we were really concerned about when we last discussed it. It wasn't the low density that was an issue. It was the higher density and the mixed use stuff. I think specifically the mixed use was the feedback. I think that what we're, let me find it. I think the consensus was, I don't know what slide this is, existing versus proposed residential density adjustments. It's a couple before that, Victor, I think.
I think she's asking.
Well, I want to try to simplify it. This page right here. Well, that one has a lot of numbers on it. This is the one that has just the density numbers. That is, so it's a couple, one or two before that one. I think it's, yeah, if we can look at the scenarios too, if you prefer. Sure.
But scenario 3
Oh,
should be 1640.
Yep.
total there should.
And total should be 3208. But we just wanted, because those were numbers you saw at the March meeting, so we just wanted to be
Yeah.
able to, you still see.
Yeah, it's a, yeah.
Basically a rounding error between those two.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to say I can't hear committee member Morris Lopez hardly
Sorry.
at all.
I didn't have my light on, I'm sorry. So I was just looking at the two scenarios, 3 and 4,
Yeah.
and just questioning the total.
Yeah, and I'll frankly, I personally was more concerned about the densities per acre. I spent more time on that to get a feel for what that's going to look like, to Mr. Ottoboni's point. If with those density numbers, what does it make us feel like we're just crowded in on top of each other?
Well, I think any way we look at it, slice it, we're going to be crowded on top of each other. That's my take.
Well, yeah, I think that I think the beauty of this is we're pushing it inward so that we're filling in those empty lots rather than, creating the outward. And so we're taking and utilizing the resources that we have already paid for, like sewer and water, and getting and leveraging those and using those empty lots and so forth, to better advantage. And giving people that, like, I was just reading an article that somebody posted on what's happening in San Juan about how baby boomers are keeping their houses and not selling their houses. I know, Jackie, I think you commented on that posting.
I don't recall.
And yeah. But I think that, it's those sorts of scenarios where then we can create ADUs and other opportunities to increase housing and lower cost housing are in fact benefits to the community.
And I don't want to get away from the reality of the housing element is those are proposed wish list
Well,
housing. It's not a mandate that you're
no,
going to
no,
build
right.
those. So
That is you guys, the council voted and put in that. So if we suggest a change to that, the implication is, or the potential implication is that they have to then go back and redo the housing element again, which does not seem like a wise use of anybody's time, in my opinion.
everything should be in alignment.
Right, and I think this is
Where
what
we
this
stand
scenario
tonight.
does.
So I'm asking you, Chair, are we making a decision on,
I think the direction, are you comfortable with that?
well, you said there was a.
Within the housing? No, I'm out. That's what we're trying to build.
Oh, but you said there was a consensus before I got here. So did you vote on one of the?
No, we haven't voted on
Okay,
anything.
because I thought I heard
No
that
voting.
there was a consensus.
No, we were, yeah.
And the discussion was pretty aligned.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Are you comfortable with that as well?
scenario 3 or 4?
4.
Okay.
It's the alternative densities that are reflected in the newly approved housing element.
Right, I like that for the
Okay.
mere fact that it's less of
Clean.
a total residential
Yeah.
in general.
Okay. Yeah.
That was what I was looking
So-
at.
So it sounds like we
And no on the financial studies. I agree with Mr.
Okay.
with Mr. Graves, right? Yeah, it's a waste of 25K, 2,500, yeah, 25,000.
okay.
It's a waste of that. We can use it somewhere else.
Anything else from the committee, or can I open it back up to public comment?
Sorry, just a quick follow-up
Yes.
question. No fiscal analysis, but are you wanting us to, or maybe when you guys do your motion,
Yeah, let's-
evaluate the full
Let's
land?
wait till we have public comment and bring it back.
Okay.
It looks like Mr. Ottoboni's just chomping at the bit to get up here, please.
Just want to kind of question, I guess, and ask, you have all these empty lots in San Juan, you're assuming that you're going to be able to fill them up to satisfy the state mandate. But what about all the property owners, about whether, number one, whether they want to do anything? And number two, whether they can afford to do anything?
Yeah.
And with those two combined, I think it's a stretch that you're going to be able to satisfy the state mandate.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, at this point, we're taking comments. It's not we're not doing question and answer any longer. However, I did pull out my business card. I'm going to give it to you because I'd be happy to talk to you tomorrow, whenever, anytime. I live here in town. I'd love to discuss it with you.
Okay.
Um,
Next in chambers, we have Jim Dazzle. You may now approach the podium. We have 5 minutes.
Your documents specifically suggest that you comply with CEQA. And right now, well, I recognize when your requests, when you were drafting these documents, CEQA was an issue. Right now, the state of California, CEQA is becoming maybe a non-issue in light of they're relaxing those standards. So I think that needs to be considered going forward. I've spoken with Ariel earlier about this, and she concurs with that thought. The last comment that I have on this reimbursement agreement, it says that that'll be accomplished by an outside consultant. That original request. That was before the city hired Ariel Goodspeed and her associates. And I don't think that that would be necessary to go to the outside to accomplish that. That's just a comment.
Good.
In fact, she could probably coach the outside consultant. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Maybe we can charge the consultant.
Well, maybe she could work on the outside for those kind of projects.
Thank you, sir.
Generate income where you won't have to increase fees as to what I've seen has been suggested. Talk about a shakedown.
That concludes public comment.
Okay. Okay, we have now closed public comments. Final committee comments. Anyone have any final comments?
Yeah, I want to make sure that I am addressing what you've been asking, Ariel, and what I've heard from talking to the rest of staff. I am in favor of, when I said an analysis, I wasn't talking about an outside analysis. I am in favor of directing our staff to present us with a plan through their expertise that's like, a what if scenario in terms of what's going on and what we could be using and what all these things. That is what I am in favor of, is
Okay.
like doing a little bit of due diligence homework.
Okay.
That is kind of like, hey, if somebody were to come in 5 years and say they want to do a thing, like, we have taken the time to outline the steps and a little bit of, through our current lens at this time, the value there type deal. Not to say that we should take that and then go back and redraw lines. That's not what I was asking for. It's more of what you were suggesting on internal time. Not necessarily, I mean, I get the covering ourselves, but like, we've studied this, we've looked at this, we've discussed it. And so that when and if this comes up, there's kind of like we're not caught, hey, we never thought about this, we got to go think about it for 6 months. Like,
Right.
hey, we've talked about this, in general, the committees and the residents and staff were in favor of something looking like this. Is this what you were talking about for your project?
Sure.
Cool. We have a starting point.
Okay.
Or if we even want to go start soliciting for, like we talked about, putting things on the website, like what are we even offering? Just having a general, like
Okay. I like it.
a what. So,
Okay. Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I'm in favor of moving this forward this evening. I know that was the goal of staff and Michael and Kylie. But I wanted to use my just remaining minute or two to talk about money, a topic that is a big interest to me, and it's come up. And I think it's kind of goes hand in hand with a discussion about San Juan, and this might be kind of visiony a little bit, but it's, I think, helpful to keep these things in mind that, when we're talking about drawing lines and what can be true within those lines and what are you leaving out and so forth, it inherently, I think, brings one to thoughts of revenue and money and so forth. And I just, to always to keep as our benchmark. And I was on the city council, I didn't pay enough attention to this. The decades that I've spent in planning, I haven't paid enough attention to it. I'm paying attention to it now. The sources of revenue for any municipality, including the city of San Juan Bautista, are not infinite. They're very, very limited and very distinct. Like I said earlier, hotel, gas, and sales tax. That's how our city makes money. And here's a quick quiz for everyone. Who can tell me the top 3 money producers to the city in San Juan today or last year, 25? Who are the biggest money makers for us? Where did we get money? Ariel, what's your guess?
Market, Hardines, and I'm not sure. Go ahead.
Gas stations up.
Hacienda de Leal.
No. All right, I'll tell you. Number 1, by a lot, Valero, now Chevron, at 170K, responsible for 170,000 into our accounts here in San Juan. 170,000 for a little tiny gas station. Next up, Hardines at 120. After that, Hacienda at 110K. That's TOT. Posada, no, Windmill Windmill's at 85. Windmill's way down there. I thought they'd be a lot higher. And then Posada at 80K. Hotel tax is, and Michael will tell you this because he does so much work on the peninsula. Hotel tax is where it is at. Why do you think Carmel, Monterey, PDG, why do you think these places have so much money? It's 12%. And here in San Juan, every dollar that is spent at one of our hotels goes right into our account, like at 12%, right into our general fund, 12%. It's unbelievable money makers. Whereas sales tax gets sent to Sacramento, you know what comes back? 1.75%. 1.75% of sales tax. Think of that. All of our festivals and Jason and we got 10,000 people in town and look, they're all spending money. Isn't that great? Well, kind of. It's not awesome at 1.75%. What about gas tax? California's gas taxes are the highest in the country. You know what comes back to us? This city, for every gallon sold, 3 cents. Oh, and there's more bad news. That money, that paltry 3 cents per gallon, can only be used on streets and roads. We can't do anything with that money besides streets and roads. But yet these communities have found a way to make ungodly amounts of money over the last 20 years. Yountville went from 2.8 million in revenue to 15 million. That's a 475% increase. Their growth went down, population. Their growth decreased by 1.6%, but their revenue went up 475%. Healdsburg went up 782%, from 16 million to $132 million a year. Healdsburg, their growth only grew by 12%. 782% growth in revenue on 12% growth in population. That's insane. That's all hotel tax. That's because it's so nice to stay in Healdsburg on the park and the Healdsburg Hotel. Oh, let's go there for the weekend, honey, and spend lots of money. That's why Healdsburg took 132 in last year. Carmel by the Sea, $6 million in 1990 in revenue. Today, about 31 to 40 million. That's a 230% increase, and their population went down 25%, from 4,200 people to 3,100 people. Now it's Carmel by the Sea. They happen to have the most spectacular ocean settings probably in the world or among them. But my point is, we can stay small within those constrained lines and make lots and lots of money and be economically prosperous and vibrant and amazing if we do it right, if we're smart, and if we think about these things. What can we make money on? Can we make money on housing developments? No. You can stack studies from the floor to the ceiling that establish the fact that tract housing developments lose money for a municipality over the long haul. Lose money. They are a net drain. They're not money makers. Can you pick up some money on a development agreement or an impact fees? Yeah, okay. But you blow it. The city, it's gone. Now you have to pay for the infrastructure, for the kids to go to school, for police, fire, all that stuff from now until the cows come home. It's not generating all the money you're getting is property tax. That's not going to cover the expenses of a tract housing development. So we have to be smart about these things. We have to be intentional and we have to be thoughtful and plot our course. I'm very proud of the work that we're doing on this committee. I think it's essential. And by the way, a lot of these communities that I mentioned have done similar work like we're doing now. And I think that the future looks really bright for us. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie?
Can I ask you to turn your microphone on, please?
So sorry. I'm going to settle on scenario 4. I believe on that
Oh, you turned off your mic by accidentally there.
Oh, thank you. You're so nice. So I'm not convinced that I want our staff, our small staff here they don't have a crystal ball. We're talking about doing analysis, fiscal analysis on property that we're not jazzed about bringing into our sphere of influence. We've already discussed some of the pitfalls with it. Hillside, possible contamination, infrastructure to get out there. It's a really bad road if you've ever taken that road. So I don't want to waste our staff's time on that. To me, it's like, do they have a crystal ball? What actual projects are you talking about when we have these other things that we've already pointed out? I'd like a better use of their time with with this work, and that's something I don't want to promote. Other than that, I don't have any other comments.
Thank you. Yeah, I made some notes, that I don't know if they're appropriate or not. I think I may just sit on this. I think that we get into we get down the rabbit hole on some of these development questions and business development versus this kind of development, that kind of development. And I hear community members say, well, we don't want Costco. Well, Costco's never going to come to a community with 2,900 residents. That is never going to happen. Starbucks, maybe, if they could put a drive-through on the highway, except we don't have any parcels that are zoned to accommodate that. We have, I can tell you that in my time on the city council, I actively went out trying to find a bank to open in town, a hardware store, Ace, for instance, a dry cleaners. And I can tell you why all of those businesses will not come to town. I mean, there's very clear feedback that we get from these businesses when we go talk to them. And the most insightful response I've seen was from a consultant that basically said the only thing we should be looking to add business-wise is food and beverage businesses. That struck a chord for me personally, but it's a little depressing kind of when you think about the history of the town. But anyway, I think that is out, it's not that is not our place. Our place is not to develop the plan for the future. Our mandate was to look at land use and come up with a proposal that met the wishes and the needs of the community. And I think we're very, very much there. And what we have before us now is a targeted amendment to the general plan that brings the general plan into alignment with what has already been passed by the city council in 3 separate votes on 3 different elements to this process. So, I think we're really close to there. EJ, I think I think if you were to propose as part of some sort of limitation on the infill study, or not the infill study, but the fiscal, that would say it need, to say we're recommending that a fiscal review be performed, but to be performed by staff, not farmed out, not out to a consultant.
That's what I propose.
Okay, and that it be completed for the next meeting, which I think won't be till probably July, if I'm no meetings in July, so August then probably. So that gives them a couple of months to work on it. I think I would certainly support that.
Yeah, my last comment was around, like, I think it makes more sense.
Yeah.
We've sat in multiple meetings,
Yeah.
including when Miss Goodspeed was being hired, that speak to her skills in this area. And
I agree.
if she's interested in looking.
Well, and she feels that it's important. So I'm supportive of that.
Yep.
But I do want to put guardrails up.
Yep.
Because
I agree with that.
I think we've spent an awful lot of money with consultants over the years that are not productive. Michael, the obvious exception.
Present company
You
accepted.
too, Kylie.
Yes.
Thank you guys, by the way. Okay. I guess I am entertaining motions.
EJ has one. EJ has a motion all ready to go.
There's a suggested motion that you might want to use as a guideline.
Jesus.
You're gonna need to alter it slightly perhaps, but. You keeping my card?
Oh, it's checking it out. Get a coupon for free pizza. Is this?
So work with me here. I move that we receive the revised infill development strategy update with the consensus being that the option number 4 for density be
Incorporated.
and that we authorize staff to internally look at a fiscal study with respect to already identified parcels within our map. The revenue generating land uses for properties already identified in our map, and for that review to be ready for presentation at our next, which we think is August meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Excellent. Does that, think that's adequate? Do we need to, bear with me one sec. Ariel, was that clear? And did that cover all the points you think we need to cover?
The only addition, well, one addition is just, as we discussed earlier in the meeting, just looking at the language of the parking, and I'll let that motion maybe
Okay.
carry. There might be counter motions.
Okay.
Counter motion.
What's that? Yes. Yes.
Of potential commercial use of land within our sphere. We're
No.
talking about the stuff that's outside.
The stuff that is outside the
So-
the sphere that was passed.
To clarify,
Yeah.
I was speaking about Ariel's request to present a fiscally responsible plan. And what I understood is that you would be looking both mainly internally, but also at the few properties that were identified on the map as well, when you looked at that analysis. Not wide open, but like,
This one?
so this one's easier to look at. Keep messing me up. Sorry. So we are looking at there's no title on this, but the map that's got more properties on it. And so this would include our downtown mixed use, coming up with a plan that is including that, but also with a guise to look at these. So it would be inclusive of all the properties already identified on this map. And so we on review, not just in our sphere. So on review, we would be able to see, here's what the impact is with her analysis here, with some caveat, whatever she comes up with here, and be able to say yay, nay, but just to have her expert analysis to look at there. That was my intent in covering all those. Okay. And that, I think, was consistent with what you were asking. If not, let me know.
Yeah, and, we can look at that.
We already talked about the pitfalls of that hash red area that's outside of the sphere. So what would be your, or the categories of how you fiscally?
Okay, we have a motion in a second, so I can't, I understand. I get your point, but I don't think, I'm a little fuzzy on the sort of process here. I feel like we're shouldn't be discussing this. We should have a motion in a second and we should vote.
Yeah, motion second, vote, and then when that's closed, I can respond.
Okay. Okay. No, please do vote.
I
Roll
don't,
call, please.
I don't have details, so I'm going to say no.
That's fine.
Okay.
Roll call, please.
So, Committee Member DeVries,
Yes.
Committee Member Morris Lopez,
No.
Committee Member Sabathia,
Yes.
Chair Morderana.
No.
Motion not passed.
I want Jackie to have an opportunity to clarify. I know, but so,
I think, so my recommendation
yeah,
would be for staff, it's a little bit, different direction. Have staff look at this particular item with that couch, and maybe we do a very quick meeting in about a month, so we can provide some more details of what that would look like, what it would include, and return, because I don't think I can answer that tonight, and I think I need time to just take a look at it. And
Rex going to do the analysis on the spot.
yeah, I can't do that now. And so, but I could provide, here's the factors of what we're gonna include,
here's-
and I could,
okay. Here's the problem I'm having with this, or the challenge I'm having with this. I thought we were talking about the stuff outside, and I'm not comfortable asking staff to come up with a plan for downtown, because I don't think that, to me, requires community input. That is a much bigger project than having the staff come back with some fiscal analysis. I'm not sure I don't know what to be, even where to start with something like that.
so generally, I've seen a little bit. So generally, you're looking at the land use. So you're looking at, okay, the general plan, what's it's designated, the types of businesses that would go, that could potentially go in there. Generally, if you look at a similar, range of different cities with similar businesses, what is like that revenue, and so you could create, some scenarios, and then you kind of have a range, and then that average, and then you would take out some of the physical constraints. There's constraints, right, to the property, and so you would, take that into account too. So that's very, very roughly speaking. I wasn't prepared to like put that together.
No, I think I had in mind something different when I suggested that, but if,
We could just, we could focus on the 12 acres and that 114 acres, and,
Yeah.
and
Let me-
it'd be very rough,
Well,
let me interrupt you.
I
please.
thought, Chair, that we were, and Ariel, that we were talking about the potential loss of the commercial in the areas that were not in our sphere. That's what I thought originally was the proposal,
And I did too. That's why I wanted to,
which I thought was very nebulous because you don't know. And like I said, there's pitfalls out
Yeah,
there.
okay.
There had a mitigation of the property. I mean, there's just a whole lot of other stuff. I didn't expect you to like come up with it right now, but I'm like, I was confused now because now it's a little bit different.
okay. I think that doing the fiscal analysis on the outside, which is what you had originally suggested. I'm looking at your list here. So it says that the list says provide direction on whether to conduct a fiscal analysis related to the reduction of acreage for the business park, commercial and industrial land uses within the proposed, the changed area, changed SOI. That I'm in favor of, with the limitation that we bring it back, that it's staff built and comes back at the next meeting. Going to some sort of full-blown analysis of what's within the city limits seems overly optimistic given the timetable. How do you feel about it? I mean, do you feel strongly about it?
I do. I also want to go home.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to. Okay, so let's make this. Okay. Come on,
Dan,
Dan.
you do me a favor of wordsmithing a motion that might get us passed?
Well, I can, but,
I don't have, I'm not saying absolutely
Chris-
not. I just
Chris,
wanted
hold
to
on.
clarify it too.
okay, Chris, hold on. I can, EJ, I want to go on the record as, and by reiterating, I see any kind of analysis on the cement plant mouth of the canyon as being extraneous and a waste of time. And if someone wants to do it to say, hey, at least we studied it, we're being thoughtful, I can see some merit to that, I guess, just to say we crossed the T's and dotted the I's, but I don't see the need for it. But in reference to you guys who think that's be nice to do, I will take a stab at a motion. Where's the original motion language? All right. So I'll make a motion that we receive the revised infill development strategy update and authorize staff and EMC to prepare a refined draft targeted general plan amendment for the final review by the Urban Growth Boundary Sphere of Influence Committee, and that staff be directed to prepare a financial analysis or financial, whatever is the phrase for it, financial analysis of the properties that would not be included unless a change is made to our lines that are south of current city limits, that I've been referring to as mouth of the canyon, cement plant, etc. That capture it?
That's perfect for me.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right.
We have a roll call, please.
Of course, Committee Member DeVries, Committee Member Morris Lopez,
No.
Committee Member Sabathia,
Yes.
Chair Mortarana,
Yes.
motion passed.
Thank you, guys. Agenda. Okay.
I don't either, but
If there's no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
With a motion from Committee Member Sabathia and seconded by everybody else, we'll take a roll call, please.
Of course, Committee Member
I heard
DeVries,
Morris Lopez as the second.
Committee Member DeVries,
yes.
Committee Member Morris Lopez,
No.
Committee Member Sabathia,
Yeah.
Chair Mortarana,
Yes.
Yes.
Leave.
motion passed.
I'm dusting the furniture.
If you want this for tomorrow,
Oh, okay.
on my notes.